provided I pressed all the right buttons and I got everything to work today. Joining me right now is Professor Emeritus from Political Science at the University of Illinois, Dr. Kent Redfield. And Dr. Redfield, thank you so much for taking a couple minutes to talk to us today.
Oh, good to be here.
All right. And since you are with the political science, we'll talk about some of my favorite stuff today, and that is politics. And of course, there's some big stuff going on right now with politics. And one of those big things, obviously, is something that keeps getting brought up, especially with stuff going on around the nation, and that's the assault weapons ban. Doctor, tell us a little bit about what's going on with that and what the status is and what you're seeing from your office.
Okay, and so we've got a law that's been challenged as unconstitutional in federal court, and that it doesn't comply with the court's revised interpretation of how you apply the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, and so you get to get this resolved eventually, you have to have a trial, and then there'll be an appellate level consideration that eventually will end up at the Supreme Court. But the preliminaries involve, is the law, since it's been challenged, do we have to follow the law or not? And so, there has been a court battle at the first level about whether we should have a restraining order, and that would say, a timeout, you can't enforce the law. And we've got a ruling from a circuit court judge, essentially level, saying that you couldn't enforce the ban. And that went on for about 5 days, where you saw that people were buying and selling assault weapons again. And then at the appellate court level, you got a new decision. The state appealed the restraining order, and at the appellate court level, they said no. We should be enforcing the law until it gets resolved in terms of actual decisions and stuff. And so all of a sudden, 5 days later, we're back to the law being in place again. And so this part could actually get appealed up to the Supreme Court. There was a case involving whether regulations and guidelines on mailing essentially drugs that induce abortion that went quickly from the lower court level to the appellate court level, and the U.S. Supreme Court heard it and essentially left, stayed the ruling at the lower level. So these things can happen quickly, but it's more likely that we're probably, at least for the time being, the law's in effect. And so I know that's confusing, but ultimately there has to be a trial decision that then will get appealed, and eventually you'll get a Supreme Court decision. Unfortunately, that could take 18 months, 2 years. If the trial court decision is that the ban is unconstitutional, that will probably freeze the law, and they won't be able to enforce it until if the Supreme Court would have to rule, in favor of the law before it could be applied again. But so it just, it is, there is a process going on here, but it certainly, looks chaotic when you just get, one day it's one way, one day it's another when you read it in the newspapers or listen to it on the radio.
Yeah, it feels like there's just a lot of moving pieces with that, and if you're not staying up on it every day, you might miss something simply because of just all of the moving parts that are coming along with that case.
Yeah, and it certainly, the law enforcement, the state's attorney, the sheriffs, they want to know, what they're supposed to enforce, or what they, what the status is. You've got businesses that are, that want to sell these weapons, and So, having it on the shelf one day and off the shelf the other, it's not a good situation. And it will get resolved, but that's not particularly comforting to the people that are, trying to, make public policy, but also just trying to figure out how to do their job.
Yeah, and that's just it. Is you're trying to balance everything, and sometimes it doesn't work out the way that you would like. I know a lot of businesses are looking at that as well as, like you said, trying to. One day they'll have a weapon on the shelf, the next day it'll be down. So trying to make sure that they're following the law as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's not good to leave things ambiguous. I mean, part of the issue here is that the U.S. Supreme Court made a decision in a concealed carry case overturning a New York law, but they also announced kind of we're a new framework in terms of how we're going to apply the Second Amendment. And so people look at that framework and they say, well, of course, that would mean you can't ban assault weapons, but other people look at it and say, well, wait a minute, this was a narrow ruling about concealed carry, and it hasn't been litigated yet. We don't have any cases that apply this to assault weapons, and so it's not clear, what that does. Uh, Most people, I would assume most people don't know that Illinois has a sort of a limited assault weapon ban already in place. When we adopted concealed carry, we allowed some home rule units of local government like Cook County and the city of Chicago to retain ordinances that were essentially assault weapons bans. And so that's also in the process of now being challenged in court, saying, we need to take another look at these municipal ordinances. And there are not a lot of them, but there's some of them that are in place. And, should do they really have the authority to do this, or would and until the Supreme Court definitively says this is how we interpret the Second Amendment is going to apply to specific things like concealed carry, assault weapons ban, background checks. So it's an uncertain time. I mean, the law is uncertain, and so you've got states going in different directions. Some states like Illinois, assault weapons ban recently, in Texas, pretty much open constitutional carry in terms of regulating guns in public. And so it's just until the court has a chance to rule on a number of cases and establish some kind of general framework, you're going to get conflict.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more with Dr. Kent Redfield. Talk to him a little bit about the ComEd trial and see what else is going on in the wonderful world of politics. You're listening to WTIM, your information station.
Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome back to WTIM, your information station. Leroy Clamola here with you for the second portion of our morning show here, talking to Dr. Kent Redfield, Professor Emeritus, Political Science at the University of Illinois. And Dr. Redfield, we were talking a little bit about the assault weapons ban and other stuff that's going through, but the another big topic, and we only have a couple minutes to discuss it. Another big topic is ethics reform with the ComEd trial that just happened. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, yeah, we had major convictions here of three close associates, lobbyists of the former Speaker of the House, and then the former CEO of Commonwealth Edison, the largest public utility in the state, and all guilty of conspiracy and bribery. And so it's pretty ugly in terms of what this trial showed. A lot of no work jobs and exchange of favors and those sorts of things. It's not like the old patronage where you just gave people jobs in government. This is more the pinstripe patronage where you're doing, exchanging favors between politicians and companies that would like advantage in the law. And so, the real question will be, are we going to get some reform out of this? So we just, if the Democrats say, well, we got rid of the speaker, we got rid of the bad guys, we passed some laws, there's nothing to see here. And the Republicans say, well, the problem is the Democrats are in charge. Until you put us back in charge, we're not going to fix anything. And that would be unfortunate because we really do need, obvious things like banning legislators from lobbying, former legislators from lobbying. Most states, it's like 2 years. In Illinois, it's 6 months, and it really doesn't, it's a pretty narrow, restriction. And so, there are things we could do to make it more difficult to be corrupt, frankly. It's hardening the target. And so, we tend to get reform after we have scandal. But often it's not how can we do the right thing, but how can we make this go away? What's the minimum we can put in place? And that's, that would be unfortunate if we miss this opportunity because clearly the jury, when they were interviewed after it, were, pretty appalled by, the real close look they got at the senior side of Illinois politics. And so,
all right, Dr. Redfield,
we'll get some change.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. We're out of time. We'll talk more here in a little bit.
Always happy to talk.